I would tell my husband, I was like, you should open up a space. Maybe someday you will have a podcast with Rashi Morbia Kumar and Prateek Kumar, and we'll have some 10 businesses open.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Breaking Uneven podcast. We love to talk shop, uncover the beauty of failures and play a few games. Today we have with us Rashi Morbia Kumar, the founder of The Nook. And as you'll see, we are not in our studio. There's no neon sign behind us. The grays are all gone and we have much nicer colors, a bit of plants. And yeah, just a new setup. So Rashi, how do you feel?
I'm a bit nervous. I've never done this before. Also, I'm not a very good or a confident public speaker, honestly. I'm actually a really shy and reserved person. So this is like a very new territory for me. But yeah, I'm excited as well.
Yeah, hopefully like you enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for taking that step with us and giving us your faith.
Thank you for giving me the platform.
Awesome. So Rashi, you studied fashion marketing from Berkeley College in NYC. You were then a fashion stylist for the Bollywood industry for almost a decade before you started The Nook, which is where we are, by the way. So is that a good description of your journey?
Pretty much. I actually have a couple of things that I did in the middle too. I mean, I've always like tried. So yeah.
Awesome.
Much.
I'm sure we'll unpack that as we get more into it, but we'll start off with a quick little game.
Perfect. So our first game is called the Twitter Bit Challenge.
Okay.
Twitter is known for its 280 character limit, which makes it a little difficult to convey your thoughts.
Correct.
So we want to transfer this challenge to you
to
tell us what the Nook is in 20 seconds. But we won't make it easy. You also have to use one emoji and one hashtag in your tweet. So
we also have a stopwatch, by the way.
So.
Oh my God. So it's more challenging. There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Okay,
so you
fine.
have 20 seconds to tell us.
The Nook is a luxurious event space that offers a private venue for all kinds of events, and it is extremely, extremely stunning. Heart emoji, hashtag events at the Nook. 12 seconds.
That's
yes,
not bad
see,
at all.
yeah,
That's a
really
good one.
Yeah, and like I think you also covered all your points. Like I don't
Exactly.
think you left anything out.
I mean, it's pretty much there.
Yeah.
Like this is what we offer, right? Like
yeah. So maybe you shouldn't be as
nervous
as you expected.
Trust me, we've had very seasoned founders also unable to like properly do the Twitter
No
bit. Like
way.
23 seconds.
Yeah,
Yay.
we've had someone go up to like 30 or something
30,
like that
yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So you worked at multiple companies as a fashion stylist, and obviously it is a space that's still quite niche in a country like India, right? So what was that experience like, especially coming from a time period where it still wasn't what it is today? Like stylist today is still a more recognized and a larger field, but not at that time.
Not
right?
at all.
Talk us through that, please.
So I started really early. Like it was right maybe after I came back from New York, probably like 2 years after graduation. It's not even something that I was aware of. You know, the industry or the job profile or even what it entails and what it is about and how am I even supposed to apply for a job? Like I had no idea. It was so new to me and so alien to me because obviously we had no social media, none of this. I'm talking about 2009, which feels like, my God, it feels like a different generation. But 2009 is when I started working.
It is more than a decade ago, so that's a long
It's
time.
way more than a decade ago. Yeah, exactly. It's like 15 years back, which is, oh God, I feel old. but yeah, that time it was so new. It had just picked up because I think Manish Malhotra was one of the very few designers who started styling. There was Anita Shroff also who was doing it. Very, very few because they had contacts in the industry, you know. So they kind of like started the whole journey. Manish started with, I think, Karishma Kapoor in Raja Hindustani. Like, you know, he started the whole trend of like, let's style actors in movies, you know, rather than them deciding for themselves what to wear. And they used to do their own makeup and hair as well at a point, you know. All actors, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So slowly, the industry has evolved, you know, like things have got more professional, got more like, you know, compartmentalized and experts for everything. Because, I mean, not one person can do everything at the same time. So it was very new when I started. I started with Rocky S. And a lot of A-list celebrities that he was styling, and I was like literally thrown into the wild, you know, like all like fresh off the oven, you say. Like I was so inexperienced and completely new to me. But it's my passion. It's something that I absolutely love, you know, like clothes and, you know, like styling and the whole aspect of it. It just excites me. So it took me some time to like get used to it, but it just became like second nature to me. So then I went on to like Anaita. I did like 2 movies with her, worked for a while, did my own freelance journey. And then eventually when I got married, I kind of like stopped working in that industry. Again, after like a couple of years, I started working with Ami Patel as well. So I've had like a on and off relationship with styling. I actually styled a movie after the pandemic. It was supposed to happen before, but then COVID hit. So it was pushed for a year. I styled the whole movie. It was a multi-star cast by Abbas Mastan. Unfortunately, it still hasn't released. It's been a good 3 years now. It was a very big Netflix film actually, but it hasn't released yet. So I'm hoping it releases because there's a lot of hard work that I put into it.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So, but that was like, I think I stopped my styling journey after I had my kid. And it was getting very challenging for me. So then I was like, I need to find something more stable, something that I can, you know, give more time to my kid and my family rather than work. So that's where I was like, I'm done with my styling journey.
Interesting. But of course, it's still something that's
passionate.
Passion for you.
Yeah. Who was your favorite person to style?
Deepika Padukone.
Oh, wow. Okay.
John Abraham.
Oh, nice.
I loved working with them.
Yeah.
Actually, they were actually my favorite people to work with. Abhishek Bachchan, he was like my, he used to play so many pranks on me at this set. That was, I think, one of my most fun movies I worked on because he made my journey like very special. And everyone was so nice, like, you know, on that movie. He was actually, I still think about him because he was amazing. Like, he was literally like my father figure, you know, so I loved him. But John and Deepika were like...
yeah. And also, I mean, they are both well into the fashion space as well. They're happy to experiment.
Yeah. I'm very comfortable and like, they don't have so many hang-ups. And
how do you feel about styling Ranveer Singh?
I've not styled Ranveer Singh.
But what if you had the opportunity?
It's a little... So now he's settled down, actually.
Yeah.
I think Deepika must have. But before that, not something that I am comfortable.
Do you
like
I guess enjoy his style?
Yeah, it's not my style. It's not something that I would...
Exactly.
You know, like it's not my kind of area. I love styling men. Actually, I enjoy styling men more than women.
Oh, really?
I do, because like the movie that I styled, it was a multi-star cast of like 7 actors, like male actors.
Oh, wow, okay.
So to actually divide different looks, and that is why I was so excited for that movie, because it was like 6 different, you know, they all were main star cast, and it was 6 different actors, 6 different characters, 6 different looks, 6 different, you know, like I had to stick to like their personalities. And so it was so much fun. So I actually enjoy styling men more. Like I styled my husband pretty much all his life. I style my son. So it's something that I really, really enjoy doing. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. But those 2-3 actors are something that were very close to my heart.
Yeah, I would just assume that like women would be more fun to style because there are more things that you can play around with.
No, definitely, for sure. But I feel like men, there's so much potential, right? Like, because I don't think that men actually
the thing is, the range for what you can do with women is also with men is also a lot, but it's less explored.
Exactly.
Like the average woman would probably end up exploring more of the range than the average
women are
male
more
actor.
open to experimenting. Men are a little more like they're in their comfort zone. They don't want to try new things. So it's so much more fun to push them like out of their comfort zone and be like, just try it because it's gonna work, you know. So that's why I enjoy doing that more.
Interesting. And then, sorry, one more question, and this is you can choose not to answer this, but at that time when you were styling and you know you were getting great gigs, right? If you're working with Bollywood, that's probably the top level for a stylist.
Yeah.
Did you think that it would pay you enough to make a good life for yourself?
No.
You didn't.
Not as an assistant.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would have been, let's say, monetary success for you in the world of styling if you were still to do it, for example?
It's very high. It's very high. It's
Yeah.
You get good money. Like if you're like the head stylist, if you're like the main stylist, you get good money. Really good money.
Okay, so you can actually make your entire living off of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you're good at it, you have the right contacts, which is very important in
Yeah.
this industry. Like, you know,
Yeah.
also because I kept going in and out. And every time you go out, you have to restart.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you can
You
pick
can't
off.
just pick it up. Yeah,
You
yeah,
can't
yeah.
pick up from where you left off. It's like if you're out of the industry for like say 2 months, the industry's forgotten you.
Yeah.
You have to restart the whole thing. So if you stick around for like long, and if you have the right contacts, you have the right friends, you have the right people, you can make a lot of money.
So what was your journey, I guess, into like breaking into the industry? Like you said that like having contacts or knowing the right people is really important in this. So what was your journey?
Honestly, with me, it was just stroke of luck.
Oh, really?
It's no contacts, no friends, none of that, no network, none of that. Like, I didn't know someone who knew someone who knew someone who I could just call.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have that. It was literally stroke of luck. It's just, I've been very blessed with that. I do believe in manifesting. I do believe in like, you know, I have had that. Like if I want something, if I really want something, I just get it. It just works out for me. And I don't know why. And I don't know how. And in the most random way. Like with Anita, it was a Facebook message. I never in my wildest dreams would have thought that she would reply, forget reading. She would reply and I would get the job. With Ami Patel also, it was just an Instagram message. Like, I'm not even kidding. It's just like how, I don't know how, but it's just happened. Because even before approaching them, I've been out of the industry for so long that it's not something that I would have even expected. But it just happened. It's not been any kind of networking contacts with me.
Wow.
So that's why maybe I've not been able to sustain, you know, in the industry for too long. But it's just luck, I guess, and good work.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you've already, I think, had a great journey in like the whole styling thing. So I think you did break through and like get this.
I did good work. Yeah, I'm very proud of the work that I've done, for sure.
I'm really happy that you can actually like recognize that and accept it.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people would be unable to accept that, you know, they've done good work. It's tough for some people, and it's awesome to see the fact that you can actually recognize yourself for it.
Yeah, it's taken a lot of work.
I'm sure.
A lot of
I'm certain
self-work.
it's well deserved. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of people out there who are definitely doing well in terms of like the outside perception.
Yeah.
But internally, they're just like beating themselves up.
I was
24/7.
one of them,
Yeah.
honestly. Like, you're meeting me actually a year and a half of me becoming a completely different person.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So you're actually meeting a Rashi 2.0, I would say, because I was one of those people.
So what prompted the change from 1.0 to 2.0?
A lot of personal life struggle that I've been through. It's pushed me to become a completely different person. Like, I've always been one of those always criticizing
Yeah.
myself, never appreciating myself, never giving myself credit, always doubting, always. So that, no more.
Interesting. And
No.
then that also kind of aligns well with the timeline of the Nook, right? 1.5 years.
Yeah.
And so is there any correlation between the two?
No, I wouldn't say so. But yeah, I look at work very different now. I look at things very different now. I'm more appreciative now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So before we come to the Nook, this is not your first entrepreneurial stint, right? You started Dolled and Dapper.
Yes.
Talk us through that. What happened? Where is it now?
Yes.
The entire.
Yeah. So actually, my husband and I, we got married in 2014, and both of us were like quite young, looking to like start something of our own, something exciting, something new. And I'm just like, we both are like people who are constantly throwing ideas at each other. Like, oh my God, what do you think about this? Like, what do you think about this? Like, we're constantly doing this. Even now, even today, we do that. Like, after so many years, that's just something that we love doing. Like, you know, sometimes he'll shut me down, like, too much, like going too far. And sometimes I'll shut him down. I'm like, okay, maybe this may work in your head, but I don't think it's going to work. So we're actually like constantly doing that. So in the beginning, we were looking for like a business that'll excite me and him, and, you know, something that'll so we had a lot of ideas that we kept scratching. And then I came across this concept abroad. And I was like, this sounds so freaking exciting. Like, you know, a spa for kids. Not just a salon, but a salon and spa for kids. Which is like so exciting and so cute and so adorable. Like, I couldn't brush that idea off my head, you know. I just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper into it. So, you know, we thought that let's just give it a try. Let's at least see, you know, how the market responds to it. And let's see how people respond to it. Although it was 2016, I think. That's when we launched. I think we were too early for the Indian market. Way too early for the concept. But we took off like overnight. Because, you know, people around the area, I mean, we're looking at Bandra, Khar, Santa Cruz, Juhu, like, we're constantly looking for new things in this area. Like, everyone's constantly looking for new concepts, new things to try. And for kids, there was really not much happening that time. Even play areas, there were like hardly like maybe 2, 3 if you would, you know, if you would actually. It was very, very limited. So that time, like, and our space that we made was massive, like a 2,500 square feet spa, salon. The cutest little thing you could have ever seen. If you Google pictures, you'll still see it. People still message us, like, till date. Why are you guys not open? Like, open up. We need this in our lives. Because we've done, like, parties with 100 kids and 120 kids. And, like, it became the talk of the town. It really did. But in 2017, actually, there was something that happened in my family. And we had to actually move to the US for half the year. So for that, it became difficult for us to manage the space and also to, like, you know, do that. So unfortunately, we had to close down. Also, the costs were not exactly what we had, you know, like,
things always get more expensive.
Exactly. And plus, like I said, we didn't really account, like, it's for kids, right? Like, for adult salon services are a lot more expensive for kids. We can't really charge that much. Services are limited. Plus, like, it's not the right, I think, the time for the market. Like, if we open now, I know for a fact that it still will do, like, massively well, because people have tried, not worked. But like,
and if anything, consumer spending culture is only increasing.
Exactly.
Why not?
Maybe someday in future, because it's just been like at the back, like subconsciously it's there because it's constantly in my head, you know. People are still messaging on our page and I'm like, okay, maybe someday.
But like, through this entire journey, what was like your biggest learning that you like took forward? Or even if you didn't take forward into the Nook, just something that you learned from that entire experience?
So one thing that I learned was that I can get a bit complacent. I can get a bit laid back. I can get a bit lazy. I can get a bit like, oh, we'll see, we'll figure it out. You know, like that attitude. I don't have that anymore. Like, that's not something that will sustain a business ever. That's not something that will pay up, you know. It's not something that it's just going to figure out on its own. No. Like, you know, you have to put in the work. You have to put in the effort. You have to, like, be proactive. You have to give your energy and your, you know, your time and everything to your business, especially when it's like your own child, your own baby. You can't just be like, oh, it'll happen. It's going to happen. It's on autopilot. It's going to work out. It's taken a lot of time for me to realize that, you know what? I am not like a business major. I'm not like an MBA. I don't have like that kind of education or degree to back me up. But it's a lot of learning. It's a lot of, like, you know, self-learning, self-educating, learning as in when I'm, you know, moving forward. So that kind of also looking at people around me, like, I have a lot of inspiration around me. I have my father that I look at. I'll have my brother who's like doing fabulously well in his business. Like he's just blown up. Like my husband, like he really inspires me. He started like, I've seen him how he started and where he's reached, and it's very inspiring to see someone who's, so hardworking and so passionate about what he does. And, like it really drives me, it pushes me, like, you have to put in the work, like, go for it. Like, even though I'm a mother, and obviously it's difficult as a working mother to put in like your 100%, but you have to put in the work. You cannot be like, nah, ho jayega. Nah, nahi hoga.
Yeah,
Nahi
no, for
hoga.
sure.
Yeah.
I think like one thing you mentioned and like it caught my thing was like the pedigree, right? Like in terms of like, you're like, I don't have an MBA or a business major and things like that. I feel like, and maybe like I'm completely wrong, but I think that there's more, I can't think of the exact word, but like there's more, like, do you think that like people that haven't done the degree feel like it's more valued than people that have done the degree? You get what I mean? Like in terms of like the weightage of having the degree to start something.
Yeah.
I feel like people put more weightage to it than it would require. Because I mean, we studied business, but I don't think we're that far ahead of you than you would think.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, when you start something, it's still like difficult in terms of like knowing everything. Like you're still learning on the go. So I feel like sometimes, like I've heard this a couple of times where like a couple of friends are like, but I didn't do business, or like I didn't study this, so I don't know whether I can do it, or like I don't know how I would do consulting because like I didn't do a business degree, like I did something else. So it's like, okay, like even though you've done sciences or arts or anything else, I don't think it puts you that behind. Like that's my only like thought, because like it got my
The last 5 people I've spoken to who are going for their MBA or applying for an MBA or whatever, all 5 of them have said that this is not for the education side, it's just for the network, right? So and I think that that's the point. Like I think, at least for me, I know for a fact that there's no degree in life now. I've been trying to run a business for about a year and a half. There's no degree that I can even find that would have like
helped you,
allowed me to be, let's say, 10 steps ahead, maybe 1 step ahead or 2 steps of advantage, but
also
definitely
know
not
the
10.
times have changed. We're not living in those times where you need like ya to doctor banoge, ya to engineer banoge, ya to CA banoge. No, like I mean, the opportunities, the exposure, who would have thought in their wildest dreams like the kind of opportunities we have, all these kid millionaires and all these, like teenagers buying houses and cars. Like, who would have thought? None of them have degrees. None of them even have started education. Like we're looking at kids who are making millions of like dollars.
Which is
what's
insane.
happening? So I don't think education, honestly, obviously it's necessary. It's definitely necessary, but I don't think that kind of defines where or the amount of money or the amount of experience. I don't think so. No.
Agree. 100%. Yeah, I was just like thinking about like the weightage people, but yeah, again, like MBA, for example, like an only network game in my opinion as well. Like that's why you go to like a good university where people are filtered to the same level, and you get that access to that kind of.
And it's good contacts to have for
And
for
to
life.
be honest, in the other scenarios, what's actually happening is you're getting courses that are way more suited potentially to that one particular problem that you're trying to solve. So for example, my sister, she did the family business management course from ISB, which is like family business management course. It was never a thing before, right? Like before, the idea was you come into the business and you pretty much end up doing what your parent was doing before. That's it. But this was, the entire course taught her stuff like how do you professionalize the business in India, what actually leads to a lot of second gen failures.
It's more niche.
And stuff like that. And then that is like really helpful for her. For her, that would have put her 10 steps ahead.
For sure.
So I think there's that category of you deciding what course you do that can actually help you.
Now there
Something
are
more
courses on
catered.
everything. Like what does not have a course?
And there's so many platforms that are starting in like the edtech space. Like I know so many.
Like if you want to learn how to paint your nails, there's a course on that. Like
Yeah.
there's a course on everything. So it makes your life so much easier, right? Like that's why there's so many more opportunities.
Yeah.
People have that, option to actually learn without struggling and without the, like that pressure of paying like lakhs of rupees in a very high-end education. You don't
Taking,
need
like,
all
loans
of
and
now
things
it's
like
not
that, like,
about that.
none
It's
of
more
that.
about like skills. It's more about like, it's so nice to
Essentially-
see people have so many skills.
Definitely. Even one of the things that we're trying with the podcast is to have another series within it that are just basic level guidance or direction as to what to do when you're starting a business. Right? Like, so we have everything from like starting how to come up with a business idea, how to
Validate the idea.
market research, stuff like that. So it's in no way, shape or form a course that we're not even close to qualified enough for that. But just from
Just
let's
the
say all our
guidance,
conversations
right?
that we've had
Yeah.
with founders like
Yeah.
yourself, just like try this, and that like we're hoping that that's also good enough to just give someone a starting
Right.
point.
No, of course.
Just like
I'm
a
sure.
nudge, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Coming, I guess, like to the Nook. What was the original vision for this? And like, have you pretty much stayed on track, or has it like changed over the last year and a half?
Yeah. So basically, I wanted a versatile space, for like events. Because when I think about like, what options do we have? Like, it's either bars, it's either restaurants, or these typical banquet halls like Khar Gymkhanas and these, like such depressing venues, except Soho House, like which came up only recently again. So this was something that I really, really wanted to do. Every time I would pass Blue Sea, I would tell my husband, I was like, we should open up a space. I got very lucky because, again, the idea popped in my head. I kid you not, within 10 days, I found the space.
No.
I kid you not. I
need like this luck in my life.
This is the first space I saw. Although if you would see it the before, you would obviously not recognize it at all. That's one thing that again, it's like my passion. Like I love spaces. I love transforming spaces. I've moved like 5 houses in the last 10 years and I do up the house every time according to the way I like it. So that's like, again, my passion. So when I enter a space, I can literally vision it the way I want it in my head. And then luckily, I'm able to transform it as is in reality. So, when things start falling into place, automatically, obviously, there were a lot of teethers, a lot of issues because opening a business in India, in Bombay, is not a cakewalk. There are issues at every step. So there were issues, but everything just kept falling into place, That's when you kind of get that confidence that maybe this is meant to be. Because, everything is just working out. So maybe this was actually supposed to be my calling. This was actually supposed to happen the way it is happening. And it really did. So that really worked out for me. And it actually turned out way better than what I had imagined. Way better. I got really lucky with the rooftop and the indoor, and it's, like intimate enough for like really small events and big enough for like a good 120 guests that we can accommodate. In 1.5 years, we've done over 200 events. Oh, wow. We've been with absolutely no marketing. We've not done any marketing. I've only just hired a marketing and PR agency after a 1.5 years. It's been like only word of mouth. People passing by Linking Road because of our location. We've been very blessed with that again. Just Instagram posts. It's no marketing, honestly. And we've been associated with such amazing brands. Like the first few months we had like Bobby Brown, Spotify, Cordley, we had Love 50. Like we've been really, really blessed, honestly. So exposure-wise, it's been great. But in the beginning, like you said, was there a vision that changed or did I evolve? Yeah. So in the beginning, I only wanted to give it out, for events and stuff, like just for private events or whatever kind of events, But now recently, actually, we've started hosting events.
Oh my God.
So that's something that we are getting into the space of, which is called the Nook Experiences. So we are hosting a lot of experiences. We've just started, like we did a sit-down dinner, which was with Simbai, which was a Khasi dinner, which was really, really nice. People loved it, so that was nice. We did a pop-up Actually, day before yesterday, we did like a really fun event with Open Sounds. It was amazing. We'll be putting up on our page as well, and like such a fun event. It
Yeah.
was like stalls outside with workshops and like homegrown brands and amazing performances inside, like amazing talents. So Open Sounds is like an organization that works with musicians and talents, and they don't charge people for their events. So that's they encourage like artists. They give them a platform to like
Yeah.
like to showcase
yeah.
their talent. There were kids performing. It was so nice. It was so nice. The vibe was nice. And a place like this is great for that, So we're getting into a lot of experiences, hosting events rather than just giving the space out
Yeah.
for events.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're doing it, and like it'll make sense a little bit more in one of the games, because like I was seeing your page and I was like, oh, it doesn't seem like they host their own events yet. So I was like, oh, that's something that they could like explore.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I mentioned it in like one of our games, so it'll be funny when it comes back. But no, like really well done overall, and it's like
Thank you.
exciting to see like how many cool people that you've already like had and like worked with. Like it's also versatile, I guess,
Yeah.
because it goes with like corporate companies, but even like influencers and things
Oh,
like that,
yeah,
even
absolutely.
like personal events. So it's like
Absolutely.
very like you can give this place to like anyone and they can make it their own vibe and work with it.
Yeah.
So I think the first question that I had when we saw the place and when we researched it as well is, as you mentioned, there's a lot of if I had to walk and search for places that I can host an event, I'll probably be looking at a bar or a restaurant or
Yeah.
whatever.
Exactly.
And I guess the idea for those people is that, okay, even if there's not an event, at least we're servicing something to get in revenue, right? Why didn't you choose to go the restaurant route?
So, number one, the food industry, it's not a very stable
Yeah,
industry.
it's a brutal
Yeah.
industry, for
It's
sure.
very
for sure.
brutal. It's very, very brutal. It's not something that I have experience in either. Like, I'm not from the hospitality or the hotelier industry. It's not something that I am, it's not my forte. It's
Yeah.
not something. And if you are starting something like that, you need that expertise. You need that, and it requires a massive investment. A massive investment. It's something that we tried again. Like I told you, me and my husband, we tried doing that actually. It was right after Doll and Dapper, where we wanted to open up a bar. We still have that dream. Maybe someday, because
Someday.
both of us are so like passionate about
Yeah.
it. Like, maybe someday.
That's a
Maybe
second someday on the
we'll have,
podcast.
Yeah.
we
That's
have a
second
lot of
someday.
somedays, I'm telling you. Maybe someday you will have a podcast with
Both
Rashi
of you.
Morbia Kumar and Pratik Kumar, and we'll have some 10 businesses
10
open.
businesses.
Yeah.
Maybe. But this is something that we tried, but it requires such a big investment and so much of like,
Yeah, it is. It's hectic. It's
experience
hectic.
and stuff like that. So that was something that I didn't want to start off with. Eventually, yes, once I have that kind of experience and that kind of network, contacts, everything, definitely I want to get into that space. Because so that's something I wanted to stay away from, because I didn't want to open up and then 6 months later shut down.
Fair,
because
fair.
and
you see that a lot in Bandra. I'm not
exactly,
using
like
India,
places
Bombay.
are opening
In
up
Bandra,
overnight
yeah,
and
like a
shutting down
ridiculous
overnight.
turnover, for
Like we
sure.
don't realize that, because I mean, we are just visiting them, right? But the businesses are suffering. Like people are really losing a lot
And
of
it's
money.
like trendy or like a fad. Like it'll be like one place where people are obsessed
Yeah,
with
for like a
few
month.
months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like
it's done.
dead.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not something that I can afford, So it's not something I even wanted to think about. The whole idea of opening a space like this is that I wanted to keep it like a blank canvas, where people can mold it the way they want. Have the kind of food they want, get, the kind of look they want. So we've had like, proposals also where 2 people have hired it or rented the space out, where there's been a date night over here where 2 people have rented it out. Yeah, like I'm not kidding. Like, there's so much potential, right? Because like people hire it out for like workshops and like, corporate events and brand launches, and like even influencers come for like shoots and stuff. Like they want to shoot like a couple of looks and stuff, they'll come and shoot for it. Like, so we've had so many different, if I stick to like a bar or a restaurant, it limits me to so much.
Yeah.
You know, also I won't be able to keep it shut for like private events, right? Like there'll be other people coming in. So this gives them like that privacy. So many house parties have happened in the past, you know, like since COVID, I think it's become more
Yeah.
house
It's become
parties
definitely
and
more,
more.
yeah.
So now it's like you don't need to dirty your house, you know, just book out the space and like have a party over here, do a sit down dinner, do a family dinner, do a get together. Like there's so many, you know, options now. People are constantly hiring caterers for their house
Yeah.
parties. It's become a thing now. Like people don't want to cook at home. They want to hire caterers. They want that professional. Now they have a space to go with that, you know, so it gives them that opportunity. So I didn't want to limit it to like just a
Restaurant.
bar,
Yeah.
cafe, restaurant. No. You want to, like we've had pop-ups, right? Food pop-ups.
Yeah.
So many restaurant chefs who don't want to start with a restaurant, they have that opportunity to try out, say, a restaurant for a week at the space and see if their concept is working, their food is working. You know,
That's a really
Yeah.
interesting.
Exactly.
Definitely, like there's so much potential.
so
that you
there's
can-
no end to it.
Correct. Let's say to make this place, you invested 100 rupees, right?
Correct.
For example.
Correct.
Then what is it that you kind of like? Do you pay rent on it monthly?
I do.
And like, so what percentage of that 100 would the rent be, and how much revenue do you make on that 100 rupees?
So basically, I would say that on an average, if I would have to say like a yearly average, an annual thing, it kind of obviously it takes time to break even.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. That's okay.
Yeah, it takes some time. Also, it takes some time for the business to pick up because it is a startup at the end of the day. You know, we're still
One
like.
and a half years in. There's
Yeah,
still-
we're just
there are
a year and a
years
half.
of excuses that you have.
Exactly.
That's okay.
No excuses. But yeah, like, you know, we are trying to like maximize our revenue from every end as possible. We do have off seasons. We do have dead days. We do have dead months. Also, I'm very honest and straightforward with like, I mean, I know a lot of people who claim to have like 60, 70 events a month and they're not even having two. There are people like that as well in the market. So I am very aware of that. I'm very open with the fact that, you know, we do have dead months. We do have like, you know, slow months. We do have like, so we're still figuring those out, you know. That's why like I told you, we have to expand. Like first I was very adamant about that. No, we'll only give it for events. I don't want to get into the event hosting space and I don't want that headache and blah, blah, blah. But it's like that's something that, you know, is working here. You know, people want that. There is a demand for it. People are looking for like new things, you know. So I had to like expand and get into that area and start hosting. So that also adds to my revenue. It definitely helps in paying like, you know, a lot of my like, for example, my salaries can get covered. You know, that's a very big weight off your shoulders. So,
100%.
So anything and everything that, you know, that you have to stop being more rigid. When it's your own baby, you can tend to be more like, you know, rigid and be like, I don't think I should do this. But you have to like start letting go a little bit and be more
100%.
open to things, you know, so that you can increase those opportunities, because the rent obviously is like
A ridiculous
it's
amount. I'm
Linking
sure.
Road.
Yeah.
It's the main road. It's a commercial building. It's a new commercial building. It's a rooftop. So obviously the rents are ridiculous.
Yeah.
My costs are really high, really high. That is why so sometimes, you know, clients fail to understand why a space demands what it demands. It is because of a certain reason, right? Like we are offering that kind of, I mean, if you would, maintenance wise also, like a lot of people don't end up maintaining their space.
Yeah.
You know, like we've had a recall of customers doing their events in the past 1.5 year, like 3-4 times. And they're like, you know, it looks exactly the way it did the day it opened.
Yeah.
You know, it's not easy to maintain something like that.
definitely.
All of that
It
has
isn't.
like a cost behind it. So, but because we have to justify what we're charging as well. So that's where we have to balance it out and we have to, you know, figure it out. So, but it is a bit of struggle, I won't lie. It's definitely a struggle. But one step at a time, one day at a time.
Yeah, no, even like hosting events is in a way like marketing for you, right? Like you're getting people
100%.
into the place. And like
100%.
the minute they see the space, also like people get attracted to it, right?
Exactly.
Like then you even think like it's at the back of your head. being like,
Exactly.
oh, I can like book this space for something of my own.
Exactly.
So yeah, like that definitely like helps. And I think like so many times people are also just like lazy to like organize an entire thing. So if it's like, oh, like that, like there's like a particular event that you're interested in, like you're more likely to go for like a one-off event than organize the entire thing yourself.
Yeah.
So even like those things, like I guess help it out. And I think overall in India, and like maybe not India, but like Mumbai especially, everyone's like craving experiences to a certain extent.
Exactly.
So it's like different new things. Like even I came across this a company called Trove Experiences.
Yeah.
And they do like coffee brewing exercises or mixology and things like that. And it's just something different instead of going for like a dinner or a movie.
Exactly. Now there are so many options, right? Like there's like paint
and like
Hue by SLA, like Sakshi's doing great. Like her, there's people want new things.
Yeah, there's a lot of experience.
Yeah, it's a lot of like fun stuff.
So yeah, like doing more things like that. Like people want to go for things like that. So I think like everyone's just waiting for something in that space.
For sure. Actually, we have a lot of exciting stuff coming up. So stay tuned to our page.
At the Nook Mumbai.
Yes.
So yeah, our next game is 2 truths and a lie. You need to give us 3 statements from which 2 are true and 1 is a lie to learn more about your journey with the Nook, even your personal journey. And then we have to guess which one is the lie.
We've done over 250 events at the Nook. We have a lot of experiences coming up for our clients. And I'm related to Gehna Jewelers.
I'm saying the first one. Like
I'm going to go with the last one.
It's between 200 and 250 events, I guess.
I'm not related to Gehna Jewelers. I wish I was. I wouldn't have to pay rent then. But yeah.
Oh, do they like?
That's their building.
Their building. Yeah. Okay.
Interesting. I was wondering why.
Why them specific?
It's Gehna building, guys. A lot of people who walk in, they think that I'm related to them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's their building, so they assume that it's. Also because they talk so nicely about our space to people they know. Their daughter's Roka was here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice, sweet.
So, yeah.
Cool. So 250 plus events, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Great stuff. And yeah, I know I'm going to be on the lookout for your events because I stay 5 minutes away. So I'm quite excited now.
Yay.
Cool. Let's move on to red flags. So the next game, here we're going to give you 3 hypothetical situations. Each situation is composed of 2 things that are going well and 1 thing that's not so great. The idea is you have to assume everything to be true and then choose the situation you would rather be in.
Okay.
We'll give you everything to refer to on the iPad, so don't worry about memorizing it.
Okay.
Situation 1 is the Nook is running at 90% capacity for the next 3 years. The Nook has started organizing and hosting a few events themselves, which we now know to be true already. However, at one of your parties, the sound system fails during the peak of the party, dampening the vibrant mood temporarily until the issue is resolved. So that's situation 1, right? Situation 2 is the Nook gets a feature on AD, Architectural Digest. You have added a photo booth to the Nook, and that has resulted in a better experience and more fun for the clients. And however, there's a massive water leakage that ruins the aesthetic, and you have to shut down for 3 months. Situation 3 is the Nook successfully expands to 2 other locations in Mumbai. An event for a big influencer wedding was hosted at the Nook, which resulted in a lot more bookings. However, your trusted catering partners are having issues working with the Nook and would like to dissolve their partnership with you. So these are your 3 situations.
Which one would I prefer?
Yes.
Out of all 3?
Yes.
Honestly, the first one has happened before.
First one's happened before.
Yeah. I mean, we've lost electricity right in the middle of the...
Oh.
Okay, so I have to pick which one would I prefer out of all 3 situations.
Yeah.
Definitely which is like resolved.
First one.
For sure. I don't even want to deal with the 3 months. I do not want to deal with the catering partners, honestly,
it's also doable.
Doable. The middle one, no, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
The middle one is really bad.
Yeah, not happening.
it's also 3 months of lost revenue, 3 months of
No.
continued rent, and
No.
yeah,
No.
it's a
Although we've had like quite a bit of leakage issues as well.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so but
I'm really
we
like
always
manifesting.
so
in
we
this.
do there's shit like that happens, you know, like you don't know what's
Yeah.
going to happen when you start a business in a space, and so many things happen. Like you
Yeah.
have to just figure it out and deal with it and like handle the
But the good thing is, since you've been on for a year and a half, it means you've survived one Mumbai monsoon, and that
Yeah.
means that's a huge.
and I'm praying that
huge
these
feat.
monsoons go smooth and just like
Yeah.
praying.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, funny how like some of these have been like
Already
true,
happened.
yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, again, like a lot of it is part of the thing. Like, no, if the electricity goes, there's not much you can do.
Exact.
with
But
it.
honestly,
Yeah.
it's like service industry is a tough.
It is tough. 'Cause,
Tough industry.
If I look at it from a
client
pers-
point
yeah,
of view, it is
I wouldn't like it
exactly
because you're like, okay, yeah, well, but like I
Yeah.
get your point of view. It's out of your control.
Yeah,
so-
and at that moment, no one's going to understand. Like, it's not like if Adani decides to. I mean, if it's something that's happened on the whole street, it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
something that I can, do much about.
Yeah.
It's not something like if it's an act of God, I can't do anything
Yeah.
about it. So there's always like. I mean, we can be as prepared for everything, but
Yeah.
sometimes some things just happen. And that happens with every industry, I feel, it's not
for
just
sure, yeah.
like us.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I guess like the purpose of this game is just to see like what people are willing to like deal with.
Yeah.
Like how do you weigh what?
Yeah, it gave me a bit of anxiety for like 5 seconds,
So
but
sorry.
yeah.
But yeah, moving on to our final segment, which is the rapid fire. We're gonna give you questions and then you have to give us quick and short answers. So the first one is, how many days of leave have you taken in like the last year?
The last year, not so many. This year, quite a few.
Okay. Did you ever question whether it was worth it?
So in the beginning, like I said, I changed, like I'm a completely different person probably a year before I was. In the beginning, yes, I was questioning it. I was very anxious. I was very, very on the edge. I was like, oh, did I screw up again? Like, is this going to work? Should I have faith? I don't know. Like, obviously, like, there was a lot of negativity, around me. But I think I'm confident. I think it's definitely doing a lot better than I would have ever imagined, So, no, I don't think I doubt it anymore.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
The weirdest place from where you have worked across your career, like any.
So, we shot in this really tiny alien village in Russia called Murmansk, which was like extremely close to the North Pole.
Wow.
And like we were shooting in like we were this deep in snow. So like between shots, when we had to walk from the monitor to the actor, we would literally be dug in the snow till here, like struggling to even reach the actor just to adjust their t-shirt a little bit or their collar a little bit. Like that was an experience.
That's an exciting
That
story.
was
Yeah.
although it was the most beautiful experience, but it
Yeah.
was one of the brutal experience as well.
I think that tops us like weirdest place that you've
yeah,
worked.
yeah,
Yeah?
That's easily at the
Yeah,
top.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Your proudest moment with the Nook.
There's so many.
Choose one.
Actually, every time, honestly, I walk through the door, I just can't believe it. Like, it's my space. Like,
Yeah.
it just gives me like, oh, it feels good.
Yeah.
And every time I walk in, I'm like, it's my space and it still looks the same. And it still gives me that vibe. It still gives me like that good feeling, It, like when I enter it, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm in Bombay anymore. It just gives me like that really nice vibe,
Yeah.
So I would say every day I feel proud.
Nice.
Yeah, like it's great to see like your vision out in reality.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, exactly.
but what was one time you felt like you let the Nook down?
I think it was 1 or 2 events where things went really wrong. One event where the ACs kind of just conked off. That like really, I felt really, really bad. Like I was like, shit, we should have been more prepared, you know, like we should have like done something to avoid this.
Yeah.
Although like I said, some things are just unavoidable and we did fix it, but it was that like it's not nice. It doesn't leave a nice taste in, you know, like the client's mouth. So that kind of like dampened my mood a bit.
Fair. One learning as an entrepreneur.
I think I spoke about it before, but it's like you have to put in your effort, you have to put in the work, you have to give in those, you know, those you have to go out of your way. You have to, it cannot like, it's not going to just happen just like that.
Yeah.
Just because you opened up a place and now it's, ab khol diya na, ab kya aur kya kar sakte? And I have that attitude. I still have it. Because I have to keep, you know, telling myself that to snap out of it. Like, aisa nahi hai ki just because it's open, it's going. No. You have to give it. And this comes from my husband. This comes from my, like, you know, my brother. They're constantly pushing me and they're like, are you sure you're giving your 100%? Are you sure you're doing everything in your power to get as much revenue? Are you sure? You don't think you can push yourself more? You know, I'm getting that constant push from them. So that kind of like keeps me going. And I know that I can do more. I know that I want to do more. I know that I can definitely give 10% more today than I did yesterday, you know. So that is something that I've learned.
No, for sure. What is the scrappiest thing you've done to build your business?
The most chindi thing you mean?
Yeah.
I do a lot of chindi things when it comes to repairs and all, you know. I'll try to save the cost and then I'll regret it later because then double spend ho jata hai. You know, like I have this stupid tendency where I'm like, arey abhi bacha dete thoda paisa, and then later you realize that because I saved that money, the issue has happened and now I have to spend double the money to fix that issue. Yeah. This always happens with me. Always.
What did or will you do with your first profit?
What
did or will you do with your first profit?
Not made profit yet. So what will I do? So I think the first thing I will do is pay back my dad for the help that he gave me, for the investment, the loan that he gave me. That's definitely the first thing I want to do when I make the money, when I make the profit. For sure.
Which hobby of yours did your work kill?
Honestly, nothing.
That's good, yeah.
Nothing.
Books or podcasts?
I used to love reading books. Although I think in the last 1 year, I've steered more towards podcasts in the last 1 year. A lot of like self-help, lot of, you know, manifesting podcasts and, you know, like affirmation podcasts and self-help podcasts. And, you know, that has kind of like pulled me out of like all the, you know, mental health issues that I was going through. It has definitely like helped because I don't think I had the capacity to sit down and read a self-help book. Like, no, like I would just zone out. I'd just be like, where was I? Like, you know, I just keep repeating the same line that I was reading. It's just nothing is registering, you know. So this kind of like keeps you, even though I may not consciously be hearing it, but subconsciously it's registering somewhere. It is helping. It is kind of like, it's definitely something that works better than me reading something like over and over again. It's not going to register.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Are you, iPad or notebook?
I actually don't use either. I don't.
Fair. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
I'm not a morning person. I am not a morning person. I'm definitely a night person.
Okay, and your favorite social media platform?
I hate social media.
Oh, wow.
I hate social media. I'm not on any social media. I only go on social media for the Nook and that's it. I do not like social media. it has disturbed me so much
Yeah.
and my life so much. And I know the difference and I see so much of peace in my life and my
Yeah.
surroundings. Do not, I mean, I know this is on social media and I know this is going on social media and no offense to anyone, but I hate it. I detest it
Yeah.
with all my heart.
No, I'm sure like people that are not on it feel lighter. And
I
like
definitely, and I can vouch for that. Like, if you want to make your life easier,
quit.
delete all that shit.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, so much of like our livelihood depends on it, right? Unfortunately, it's that क्या बोलते catch-22 situation कि नहीं करना है, but your work is dependent on it. A large part of it, like me, also with struggling with styling, because when I started, it was not about followers. You know, that was my work didn't depend on that. My work was like, I'm doing good work, I'm going to get good work.
Yeah.
It's like if you have followers, तो ही काम मिलेगा, followers है तो ये मिलेगा. It's just not right. Like it's that damn Black Mirror episode, right? Like rating. It's so messed up. But yeah, unfortunately, it's the times we live in. So.
Yeah, because like I feel like a lot of like free marketing can be done on social media.
Exactly, the
So like for
exposure,
anyone starting out,
it's
the
easier
easiest
now.
place.
It's easier.
Yeah.
So that's what now there's so many like pros to it also, but the cons for me are way more.
Yeah.
So that's why it's better to stay off it.
Sure. But yeah, that concludes the rapid fire segment. Almost bringing us to the end of the podcast. What we do is we ask every guest to ask the next guest a question.
Okay.
So we're first gonna show you what our previous guests we had to we'll ask you and then you can ask.
The question I have for you is, if you can go back 5 years and tell yourself to continue doing this one thing and stop doing this one other thing, what would those things be?
This would actually be interesting given that there's Rashi 1.0 and 2.0.
2.0
Yeah.
and pre-pandemic, post-pandemic.
Okay, so one thing that I should have continued doing and one thing that I should stop doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question, 5 years back, one thing I would tell myself to definitely stop doing is taking things personally and getting too attached to things and situations and people in general. That's one thing I would definitely, for sure, tell myself that not needed. You know, the sooner you get rid of that, it's better for you. So yeah, that I would definitely tell myself to get rid of. Something that I would ask myself to continue doing 5 years back, I think I would tell myself to continue being myself, you know, like not be afraid to be myself, like not be afraid to be too sensitive or too caring or too emotional or too, like not be embarrassed about that.
Yeah.
You know, like just keep being yourself. It's okay. And it's okay to like have emotions. You're human. So that's something that I would tell myself, like just be yourself.
Nice, yeah.
So that, and then second question.
Is there a competitor in your domain that you really admire or look up to?
In my workspace.
Yeah.
Like in the same industry. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of competitors in your industry, but one that you really admire or look up to.
I think if B is like amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you know, that's like my,
If
that's
he
my
is definitely
goal.
one of the top spaces.
Yeah.
Ice Factory, Ballard Estate, I don't know.
yeah,
if you know.
absolutely
It's
love
mind-blowing.
that space. That is where I got the idea of doing this.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, because
It's
that is what, when I saw that, and I didn't know about this space. Like, I actually saw it on Instagram on Arpita's profile. It's like, what is this space? Because
It's
it doesn't
crazy.
look
It's
like,
crazy,
and
yeah.
it said it was Bombay, it was tagged as Bombay, but I didn't know what it was. And then I asked a friend of mine, and he told me it's like a new space that's opened up. I've actually not been there yet. But it looks stunning and it's so versatile and it's beautiful and, you know, like it's massive.
Yeah.
But that is where actually, honestly, where I got the idea of doing this on my own. And yeah, that's something that it's amazing. That space is too good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that concludes.
That's the end of our podcast.
Great.
Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for showing us and
Thank you
letting us
for
into your
having
space.
me. Thank you so
And
much.
yeah, thank you so much for letting us even record out here. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, in the future, maybe if y'all want to do more podcasts, then please do consider.
Yeah, I think we definitely know that now we can move our setup. And it's
Yeah.
not super
Yeah.
hectic.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.